Thank you so much for joining in and welcome to this episode of the EY GCC Leadership Series. We are here in the beautiful city of Chennai and the offices of AstraZeneca, and we will be talking to Siva Padmanabhan. Siva is the MD and Head of Global Innovation and Technology Center, AstraZeneca India Private Limited. So thank you, Siva, for joining us today on this episode of our GCC Leadership Series. Let's talk a little bit about digital transformation first. Here at your center in Chennai, there's a lot happening on that space. Can you give us some examples, talk to us about how you're applying digital transformation for your end user, which is generally patients.
Thank you, Arindam, for the opportunity to share some of this. Definitely in the pharmaceutical industry and specifically in AstraZeneca, we are rethinking literally everything along the value chain in terms of the capabilities and possibilities of leveraging the digital technologies. So if you look across our value chain, literally every aspect of it, whether it be in the drug discovery, whether it be in the drug development or manufacturing or of course distribution and the market activities are all being rethought. So, just to give you a couple of examples, one I would say would be the speed that we're trying to impact. Right. Of how quickly we can discover and develop and launch medicines. So one of the projects that the center here is very involved is in the next generation submissions. So which is in terms of how can we rethink the whole process of regulatory submissions for medicines, which is a huge part of our value chain.
And quite complicated.
It's very complicated as well. So leveraging Gen AI, leveraging other data technologies, and other digital technologies to speed that up is one example. Another example is how we are transforming patient experience. So, for example, one of our big segments is rare diseases, and a lot of times the patients don't even know exactly that they are a patient of that disease, right? So they are actually asking questions and trying to find out information on the web. So we are leveraging technologies like Gen AI, semantic search, and other technologies to create an interface through which we can make available a lot of our internal knowledge in a format that's consumable by these end patients.
So you're actually putting a lot of this, let's say, quicker access to information right out there on the web. So using your own experience,
yes,
folks that are really researching on this subject can get to that information quicker.
Absolutely, yeah. It could be patients, it could be healthcare providers, and a whole ecosystem of partners that can leverage that information.
Very interesting. And when you do innovations and transformations of this kind, there's obviously a strong need for talent, right? Talk to us a little bit about how you're building that next generation of talent, next generation skills that you need to be able to continue on this journey.
Yeah, I think it's as always, it's a mix of internal skill building and getting people ready for those roles as they come up and with those skills as they come up, but also a good mix of bringing in the right external talent as well. So this is a huge focus for us. It starts all the way from branding, what this GCC needs to be known for, and what type of people we need to attract, and making sure we are targeting that, very, very closely. But also internally, just the level of investment that we make into learning and development. And this whole aspect of everyone being a trainer and a coach to the others, right? So every one of our 3,500 associates have some specific experience or knowledge and capability in some area, and how can they share that? So we have an internal sort of knowledge network where we do a lot of this development, and also making sure not only the technical skills, but we're also building the capability to own things end to end, to actually be agile and experimentative, right? And asking questions and speaking up and challenging the status quo. So that's a whole softer aspect of talent development that's very important for the GCCs. I would say this is what's going to set apart, I think, the successful GCCs from, say, the rest of the industry in the future, because it's really going to be about how can we advance the agenda for the business and for the patients.
Right. And since you're in the healthcare space, there's a lot happening on that space, right? And even in India, there is a lot of work today being done by the state governments, by the academia, which are looking at the healthcare sector as a whole. Anything you are doing in terms of relationships with either the government or academic institutions or the startup ecosystem at large?
Yes, yeah. So we do quite a bit of that. I think that is a very a cornerstone for the GCC success. The good thing is we also have an India business which is invested into improving patient experiences for our own patients in India. So we do a lot of things jointly as well, but also some things we do by ourselves. So some of the things we have done, for example, is to partner with some of the state governments to look at next generation patient experience.
Right.
Look at a diabetes patient or a heart patient or a cancer patient end to end in every step of the way, and how can we make that whole experience for early easier, but also enable early diagnosis and prevention, early diagnosis, as well as best practice kind of cure for the patients. So we do a lot of partnerships with the governments. We also do partnerships with startups in India, where we see a lot of markets that are like similar to India, right? Where there is not a very strong government-provided healthcare system or insurance, and so a lot of the ideas that we see in India we can often export, especially in the early diagnosis. So we have done a number of things like that as well.
And are you thinking in the future of co-developing, let's say, academic courses with institutions? Do you have very specific needs for AstraZeneca that you want to have, let's say, graduates that are coming out fresh from colleges to be well prepared from day one, right? And I think the talk today is that there is still a significant ramp time from the time a person graduates to the time he or she becomes truly employable, right?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've already done some of that work. So with one of the universities in Tamil Nadu, we've developed course content on clinical data management, which is an important area for a company like AstraZeneca. We do such a lot of work in India already supporting the clinical trials. So we've introduced an elective course with a syllabus that's co-designed by AstraZeneca and the university, and we're also working on some other similar things. So there's a number of areas, for example, high-performance computing, which is a very core need for the biopharma industry, where there's very little academic, like the output in terms of student output. And so we are also partnering with some universities on that. So I think we need to really look into each industry, the GCC industry sector, and figure out, what are those specialized skills, because there's a lot of broader programs already running, I think, from the state governments and others in terms of how to make the employability better, right? And in general software engineering or data and so on. But in the specific industries, I think there's a lot of gaps that we can address.
Rightfully so. I think most governments are today building their own capabilities around rare disease research. There's a lot of focus on data, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. Maybe just shifting gears a little bit, Siva, from your personal experience, you've been in the GCC world for quite some time. Where do you see this heading in the next 2 to 3 years? What's your take on this?
That's a great question, and I think it applies as much to the GCCs perhaps as the entire ITS industry. It's a crux, or we are at a transformative point right now, where I think the technologies are accelerating so rapidly that there will be, I think, a separation of the GCCs who are able to actually thrive in the new environment, which will involve very high level of automation, intelligent systems, and the ability to stay very closely connected to the business and be able to deliver value rapidly. Because today there's a small team sitting anywhere in the world, maybe in the Western world, with these tools can do things much faster than before, and much more rapidly with much fewer people than before. So in that context, how does the GCC continue to be relevant? And I think there's going to be that focus for us and for all the GCCs as well. And if we don't do that, I think the threat is that the whole model could get disrupted, right? Because it is possible to do these things, reimagine how service is delivered in the future. So I think there'll be a lot of new service lines that will emerge, for example, testing of AI models. So the current testing fraternity will have to kind of shift gears and develop capabilities in that. And that's just one example. There'll be immersive experience generation as another service line. So there's going to be a lot of newer service lines, and we have to just be extremely agile, very much on top of being able to lead that wave as GCCs.
And maybe one final question in that regard. Why Chennai? Why did you choose Chennai?
Back when we started, we did quite a bit of analysis on the different cities, on different parameters, and I think it's been sort of proven out what our initial assumptions were, is that it is a great source of talent, but also the general attrition is lower, and that's what we've seen from our own experience as well. The government and the ecosystem is very friendly now. You've seen some of the newer moves they've made in terms of GCCs. There is a clear identity for GCCs in Chennai, and then there's an ability for us to be at the table with all these entities with a very strong voice. So these things definitely help. And also Chennai is becoming more and more a place that is attracting people from all over the country, much more so in the last 4 or 5 years. So these are all the factors. Yeah, more cosmopolitan for sure, yeah.
Excellent. So more cosmopolitan, you're seeing a lot of favorable moves by the government.
Yes.
We've seen them more recently as well. And I guess you've been very successful in Chennai. There's
Absolutely.
no question about that, given what we've heard and what we've seen. So thank you, Siva, again, for joining us.
Thank you, Arindam. Thanks for the opportunity.
Very fascinating journey. We wish you all the best. And for those listening in, thank you so much for joining in. We'll be back shortly with the next episode in the series. Thank you and take care.